Oh, hello, good evening, and welcome back to II Racing League on Twitch. Hope you're all well. Hope your week is going very nicely indeed. Thursday, and you think, well, Thursday night, who's this speaking? It is the Sun God, as normal. Usually a racer in this division, but turned streamer tonight. Hope you don't mind. Third stream in a row for this week. Back once again on track. As always, 4 streams this week. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday evenings. However, this week, slightly different. No stream on Saturday or Sunday night this week. And that is because of the real life Formula 1 at Miami. And unfortunately, the times just cross over slightly into our races. So unfortunately, what we're going to be doing is we're going to just be moving the Silverstone race for F2 and AT2 back to the very end of the season. Sorry for any disappointment by that, but that is what we're going to be doing. We could have delayed it a week, but we like the same race being done on the same week, if you get me. So everyone next week will be going to Belgium, and then everyone the week after will be going to the next race, and so on and so forth, and we'll just push this one back to the end of the season. But for Assist Tier 1, it is business as usual. Morning, Kate. How you doing? I hope you're well. I've swapped out the cockpit for the commentary booth for Assist Tier 1. We should have our normal AT1 streamer back from next week. Missed the first half of the season. And unfortunately I've had to step back from racing in this division, but it's fine because, you know, fine. Anyways, if you joined us on Tuesday night, you would have seen some great battles up and down the field. Didn't know who was going to win until they crossed the line, and penalties determined who won the race. Go and check that out on this channel if you want. Race is going to be still up there for a little bit of time after the race. Anyways, we go on board with Bullet for a track tour. Flat out in turn 1 and turn 2. Turn 3, pick your braking point, pick your line. You can go out wide like Bullet, you can take a more direct line into turn 4. Make sure you get a good exit, can easily lose the back end. Turn 5, very much an afterthought onto the Wellington straight where you get DRS assistance. Through Brooklands, this very long left-hander, and through Luffield, this even longer right-hand. You need low anti-roll bars, low roll bars on your setup for that. Down the old pit entry, into the flat-out cops. Oh, and Bullet just getting out of shape there. Backed off to save the tyres, I think. We'll pick up with Mr. Wiggles where we left off, through flat out Cops corner, beautifully done there from Wiggles, and ironically has some wiggle room on the exit. And now into Magnussen Beckett. It's one of the most famous complexer corners in world racing. Absolutely beautifully done, and I can actually say that Mr. Wiggles is struggling with brake issues on his wheel, pedal issues, so fingers crossed those work out. DRS down the long hanger straight. Massive action point for the race, so watch out for that. Through Stowe corner, don't run wide, so you will get a warning or an invalidation. Heavy braking point. We did see people go side by side here on Tuesday night through this very tricky sector 3 onto the Hamilton straight, and Wiggles goes fastest on a 28.0, but not for long. John Pant ahead at the early stages of qualifying 1. Yes, indeed, you will miss the Scottish accent. I'll probably clip it so we can get like a piece of history, a moment in history of my failed Scottish accent. Snacks usually races in 82, reserving in 81 tonight, and goes fastest, so maybe, perhaps, next season might be due for a bit of an upgrade into 81. Deaton reserved and raced on Tuesday night in the no assist tier. He's back again for another Silverstone experience tonight. Out of curiosity, Kate, what did you think of my Scottish accent? If it was rubbish, feel free to say rubbish, as Jake Sharrock goes fastest by a full half second. Nice tidy lap there from Jake Sharrock. A good time trial time on this track is a low to mid 25, so anything in the 26s is going to be good in quali. Just in case you didn't know and you were wondering. Loads of drivers on an out lap. We've got John B, who has invalidated his first attempt and dipping into the pits. And from our current 81 champion John B to the newest of our IIRL drivers, PUR Marth. First race tonight. Good friend of Ripley, who races on Tuesday evenings. So Marth might fit into this division well. He might be a little bit slow and might be better suited for 82. We just don't know. We're going to find out together. But qualifying is usually a telltale sign of where people are going to be in the race. Jake Sharrock, second run for him, goes 1/10 faster, drops into the 26s nicely. That'll probably send him through to Q2 already. Wiggles improves to a 27.3, going 7/10 faster than his first attempt. Hissy, who is also reserving tonight, has posted a 1:27.9, currently sits in 5th fastest. Marth does a 28.0, which is kind of a similar pace to Hissy and Akari's, who are both 82 drivers. So we'll have to wait and see if Marth is better suited for 82 or not. But based on one lap, we cannot really tell. Platty, meanwhile, has been very consistent in terms of being very quick in quali in 81 this season. So perhaps Platty, John B, those are going to be the benchmarks for quali this evening. Adrian goes second fastest, 27.0 for him. Deaton slots in behind Akari on a 28.7, or technically a 28.7, but pretty much 28.8. Bullett's done a slow lap and into the pits, but we're definitely going to expect to see that one beaten. Deflated wheat, 145.3. Fingers crossed that's not the best he can achieve tonight. Ross goes 6th fastest, 127.9. Just ahead of Hissy. Here comes Platty and manages a 27.2, which puts him in 3rd right now. What about Pajestic? He's had wheel issues too, alongside Mr. Wiggles, and Pad just turned back to the pad. So I'll have to wait and see how Padge does adapting to the controller once again. Used to be on controller before the wheel, but has been super unfortunate with wheel issues in the past few months. He's gone 6th fastest on his lap. 27.8. Pretty good pace, to be fair, for someone going back to pad. Really is a beautiful circuit, especially Maggots and Beckett's, tricky as they are. They are absolutely beautiful, breathtaking corners. Ross improves to 6th fastest, 27.6 for him, just behind his teammate for the evening, Snacks. FRA John B's out on track. Padge goes a smidge faster than his previous best. Doesn't change his place. John B can manage 3rd on his first lap. What about Bullet? He's opting for the medium compound tyres. Of course, his best lap was a slow one on the softs, so no doubt he's going to go quicker on the mediums here if he has a good lap. Evening Snacks, hope you're well, mate. Nice lap. Putting you in P6 at the moment. Methinks probably due for a bit of an upgrade next season to AT1. Bullet, pretty handy in quali. Unfortunately, I can't give him the toe like I did last week. Oh, and that's invalid at the final couple of corners. And, well, it would have been a good lap. Probably a mid to high 27. Mistake on last corner, well. You tend not to lose too much time on that final corner because the finish line is very much straight after that corner, so he may have just got away with that one there. But still, pretty decent lap time. I'd say you're probably comfortable on that in Q1. Greg, nice and tidy. It's a 104.3. Padge on his lap was on a 104.0 through sector 2, so this might be a low 28 or a high 27 depending on this final sector. .28.4, currently safe, 13th for him. Obviously we're expecting Bullet to beat his time and Deflated Wee to beat his time, and we have no idea where ARJACK is going to be at this moment in time. Bullet comes into the pits, and with only 5 minutes left of the session, he may only get one run at getting out of Q1. Hey Flew, how you doing, man? Hope you're well. Nice to see you. So, Deflated Wee then. Having a good season so far. Up there in contention in AT1 and in the F2, I believe. We'll have a look at some standings for AT1. Probably in the 5-minute break. Too much improvement. All of the top 9 are either retired or in the pits. This is out on a lap. Inflated Wee, Arjack, Caris all on laps, Padges out again, Marth, Deton all out on track. Wouldn't say it was busy, but obviously you need to make sure that you give yourself plenty of time and plenty of room on track to make sure you get that good lap in that will dictate if you make it through to Q2 or not. We are losing 2 drivers in this session. Hissy has retired from the session. Inflated Wheat, 8th fastest for him. What about Arjack? What can he do? Sector 2 is a 103.4, which should put him towards the lower end of the 1:27s. Again, obviously depends on the last sector. .27.0 for Arjack. Obviously safely through. What about Marth? Currently the time to beat is Greg's 1:28.4 if you want to make it through. Marth 1/10 up on his previous best in the first sector. Caris in 13th has retired in the pits. So if 3 people beat Caris' time of a 27.9, then Caris will not be making it through. But as it stands, statistically speaking, of course, he is quite safe. But he will be looking over his shoulder. Marth, that's a really good second sector split. 3.5 tenths up on his personal best. Guaranteed to go through if he gets ahead of Caris and Hissy. Only 2 dropping out, and Hissy and Caris have already retired. And he is. Marth is through in this session. John Pant is through as well. The only ones at risk here, Greg, Deton and Bullet. Here comes Deton to the line. It is an improvement, but it's not enough to improve his overall position. I don't think Padge has a wheel. I think he's using the pad flu. I could be wrong, and I'm happy to be corrected, but to my knowledge, I think Padge is using a wheel, a controller, sorry, not a wheel. But look, pressure on with this lap, he won't get another one. It's a 1:04.0 in Sector 2 split, that's pretty good. Might be a low 20, it might be a high 27 or a low 28 here. But he only needs to beat Greg's 1:28.4. Checkered flag has now fallen. Greg and Deton are still out on track. They could always improve. But look, it's a 27.7 and he is through. All eyes now on Greg and Deton. Deton, a couple of tenths up, but needs a bit more than that. Oh, and he's wide at Stowe, and that's invalid. Deton is going to be leaving us in Q1 tonight. What about Greg, his teammate? Both Alpines at the back. Can Greg change that? No, he can't. Misses out on Q2 by just over 1/10. And Greg and Deton leaving us in Q1. And perhaps Caris and Hissy breathing a sigh of relief. Yeah, bad day for Alpine. Yep. But There's only one way up. You're at the back of the field, there's only one way you can go, and that is up the field, so plenty to fight for in the race. Still only 1.1 seconds off pole. That's how competitive AT1 is this season. And let's not forget, Greg was a very good performer last season in AT1, so perhaps a little bit of a shock he's out in Q1 here tonight. Kari, Sissy, John Pant, Padge, Bullet getting through on the mediums. Good achievement there. Pure Marth in his IIRL debut. Nice showing in 10th. Deflated Wee, Ross, Wiggles, Platty, Johnby, Arjack, Adrian, Jake Sharrock, Snacks, all familiar faces. Apart from Snacks, actually. That's a pretty good improvement towards the end of the session, which we didn't quite notice, but he's only a 10th off the fastest time, which is very impressive for an AT2 driver. I think regardless of what happens the rest of the season, Snacks will definitely be in line for a bit of a promotion next season. And as Q2 begins, strategy takes centre stage. You can see 5 drivers already opting to equip the medium compound tyres. Told you your lap was bad, well, you got the good lap in, and I'm sure you're capable of doing that one again. Dreadful luck at this track continues, that is a shame. Some tracks, they just work for you, some tracks they just don't. It's really frustrating when it doesn't work out. But sometimes it be like that. Only 2 out on track now. We've got one of the McLarens coming out of the pits as we speak. So that only 3 drivers out in the first minute and a half. Drivers perhaps waiting for whatever reason. Deflated Wee has lagged out, so fingers crossed he can come back in to the session as soon as possible. Haas of Snacks coming out on track now, which means 2 of the drivers out on track are using mediums, 2 of them are using softs. Nice even split at the minute. Second Haas of Ross coming out of the pits now, he's got the mediums equipped as well. Still only 5 on track right now as John Pant comes around to start the first flying lap in Q2. Looked like he went over the inside curb at turn 1 there, but got away with it. Maybe my eyes are playing tricks on me. Hissy coming out onto the track as well. Deflated Wee is back. That is good news for him. He won't lose out on the normal 2 runs people usually do in this session. Here comes John B, Platty, Jake Sharrock, all coming out of the pits now. John Pant, that's a 1 minute 4.0 in the middle sector split. John Pant crossed the line. First flying lap of the session is a 28.0, which was close to close to the benchmark in which those in Q1 left the session. So I get the feeling that that 28.0 is not going to be safe at all. Wiggles has gone faster than that on the medium tyre, so that's a decent lap there from Wiggles. Similar to what Bullet managed in Q1 on those mediums. Here's Akari's, what can he manage? 28.4, so I think he'll need to improve if he wants to make it through. Oh, and John B's off! That is a rare sight, ladies and gentlemen. Might have to clip that one. Obviously, no reset to track allowed, so got to make sure you don't get disqualified from session. Bring that car back onto the track in a safe way. Might cost you a few extra seconds in the session, but John B, a rare mistake from the ice cool man himself. Snacks has done a lap that is only fractions behind Mr. Wiggles. Ross, great lap on the mediums, that is a 27.6, fastest we've seen all night on the mediums. Currently sits top of the tree. You see, this isn't going to be his best lap, and slows down. Possibly purposely slowing down there so he can maybe go for a medium run afterwards. But Platty, he's always useful in quali. It's a 103.2. He is using the soft tyres though, so this is going to go fastest. But by how much? Using a lot of curb there through the right-hander in sector 3, and it's a 26.9. Similar to what Jake Sharrock set in the first part of qualifying. However, Jake Sharrock can't emulate that on this occasion. He has invalidated in sector 3, which has ruined not only his flying lap, but this now lap as well. Adrian, relatively new to the league, since joining, has been very useful in qualifying as well. Putting his name in the hat as one of the quicker qualifiers in AT1. Platty getting out of the way nicely there. Ross has gone even faster on his second medium run. A 27.3 on the mediums. Some people were struggling to do that on the soft tyres. Great lap there from Ross. So 103.6 in the middle split for Adrian. That's 0.3 slower than Platty. So this may be up there with Ross's lap time on the mediums. Still, half the drivers in the pits. It's a 27.4, and Adrian slots into third. Deflated Wee behind him goes fourth fastest on a 27.5. Bullet has backed off and moved out of the way. John B did a 31.7, but that was invalid, so he will go again, opting not to use the mediums. We do generally see John B use the mediums in Q2, but maybe thinks that the strategy is better to start on the softs for this race. It should be a standard soft medium or medium soft tyre strategy, by the way. Sammy Styles joined late, so he will start at the very back of the field in 18th place come the race. See how John takes Maggotts and Beckett's. Plenty of curb. Martha's out of the session. Only managed a 43.2 on what is clearly a slow lap, but may have crashed here. I think there's a car at the final corner. So I think Martha may have crashed at the final corner. Not 100% sure though. John very nicely to the line, goes second fastest. Still can't get into those 26s at the moment from Platty and from John, sorry. And Padge, you can see there, is on the right hand side of your screen. He is off the track and out of qualifying. So we already know two drivers who are not going to make it out of this session. P1 Marth will start ahead of Majestic on track due to the fact that Marth has set a lap time already, albeit a very slow one. So those two will be leaving us. Marth will be qualifying ahead of Padge. But who are the other three drivers that are going to drop out in this session? We've got Hissy, who we saw slowed down at the end of his first attempt because he wanted to qualify on those mediums, and slowing down gave him the better chance of beating his time, and our suspicions about that were correct. Jake Sharrock topped the timing screens in Q1. Can he do it again in Q2? He is using the soft compound tyres, so he has a good advantage on 5 drivers in the top 7 who have all used medium tyres. You can see them on your screen on the left hand side. John B coming round sector 3 now, very slowly, and comes back into the pits after his 27-1 run. Bullets on an outlap. Arjack coming round the final corner to set a 27.3 very nicely on the medium tyres. Jake Sharrock, it's a 103.0 in sector 2 split, which is very, very quick. Similar to what Platty managed. So are we going to see another driver drop into the 26s? Yes, we are. This time it's a 26.7, the fastest lap time we've seen tonight. Oh, and a bit of a slide there for Bullet. Just caught it well in his turquoise and red helmet, and I think he's backed off his lap. Realises that loss of traction meant a massive loss in time. Hissy does beat his previous leisurely lap time, but can't get into the top 10. He's missing out by a few tenths at the moment, but he is using those medium tyres. He won't be able to go back into the pits for another set of tyres. Only 2 minutes left. So this lap has got to be it from Hissy. He's 1.5 tenths up in sector 1 so far on his second attempt. So far so good for Hissy. Easily flat there through Cops as a driver moving out of the way. He'll be very happy that driver didn't get in the way. Oh, just taking a bit too much curb there at Chapel. And unfortunately for Hissy, this one is invalidated. I think he's running out of fuel, so I think Hissy is going to call it a session, and Hissy will be dropping out. Question is, will it be an 11th as he currently is? Will he be 12th or 13th? Bullet's on a lap, Caris is on a lap, John Pant is out on track, Mr. Wiggles, Deflated Wheat, Adrian, all of them out on track. The top 5 are pretty much safe. Remember, only 2 drivers are going to join Hissy, Marth and Majestic. So most of these drivers will be safe and won't need to do another run. Snacks is out on track at the moment. He's just a little bit ahead of Akari's here on the hangar straight. Akari's getting a bit of a slipstream from John Pant there. And John Pant will hope that that doesn't improve Akari's progress, as John Pant's time is currently the one to beat on a 28.0. Akari's 4 tenths to make up if he wants to drop into the top 10. And it's an 8/10 improvement, puts himself P9 and is crucially ahead of not only John Pant but Mr. Wiggles, who is forced now to go faster. Bullet, meanwhile, slow first lap, so not really sure where he's going to end up on this lap. Arjack has retired and he has crashed. Has he? Someone's off in Sector 1. Not sure who that is actually. Is that John Pant who's off? It is John Pant who's off, so Arjack hasn't retired on track. Bullet went second fastest on a 26.8, so he's now safe. Mr. Wiggles is now in the drop zone, along with John Pant. The time to beat now is Akari's is 1 minute 27.6. Mr. Wiggles has a good advantage here because he's on the soft tyres compared to his first medium run. Across the line, and he makes it into 8th. Wiggles is probably safe. Adrian's is going quicker. Deflated Wee is going quicker. Akari's is on another lap. John Pant, meanwhile, his session is ending not very well. He's retired on track, which is a bit naughty. He'll get a warning from that from the stewards. And rather fortunate, perhaps, that he hasn't impeded anyone else. Akari's is into the pits, where he finishes the session, and means that Adrian doesn't need to finish his lap. So that is Q2 done and dusted. Snacks drops into the 26s too, look at that. Is this a good track for you, Snacks, or are you just sandbagging? Because me thinks you are AT1 quality. No sandbag. Well, all of a sudden you're up at the top of AT1, so something has to give there. Anyway, it's just 7 tenths separating the top 10 between Jake Sharrock's 126.7 and Adrian's 127.4, which in the end was comfortably enough to get through to Q3. Karish, John Pant, Hissy, Pure Marth and Padge all dropping out in this session, and we'll get a free tyre choice come the race. For Ross, Arjack, Adrian, they will have to start on the medium compound tyres. For Wiggles and the rest of the gang ahead of them, the soft tyres beckon for the race. And I'd have to say, this Q3 is poised rather beautifully. We've got John B, as we know, very quick. Platty, Snacks has been up there. Bullet's been up there. Jake Sharrock has been up there. Ross did a very quick time on the mediums, so you'd have to say that if he got a really good time on the softs down, that would be a good shot for pole position too. Could be 6 drivers here in the hunt. I have to say, this is probably one of the most competitive qualifying 3 sessions I've seen in a long, long time. And first out of the track, first onto the track, more like, is Ross Boss. Owner and leader of the league. Very, very quick driver. Finished second in the Assist Tier 1 and No Assist Championships last season. We'll be hoping for one better this season. and opting for some nice track position to start this session. We've got Deflated Wee, Mr. Wiggles, Jake Sharrock, FRA John B, Snacks, all out on track right now, 6 of them. Still got 4 in the pits, but I have to say, I wouldn't be surprised if any of these top 10 got pole position here tonight. All very quick in their own right. Platty coming out of the pits now in Sector 1 has loads of track space to play with. 2 more coming out onto the track. Arjack, Adrian, as Ross starts the first flying lap in Q3. This Q3 session could be a whirlwind. Jake Sharrock next to start a lap. Behind him we've got Deflated Wee on a lap 2. Arjack getting nicely out of the way of Ross, but now has to get out of the way of Jake Sharrock as well. John B starting a lap as well. Mr. Wiggles coming across the start-finish line, as is Snacks. Bit of congestion in Sector 2. 3 drivers on outlaps. 2 of those are just behind other drivers doing flying laps. So fingers crossed no one gets held up here. Ross, it's a 1:03.5. It's not the fastest we've seen tonight. It's, I'd probably say, half a second short of the best Sector 2 split so far this evening. So this may not be the lap that Ross was hoping for. Remember, 26.7 was the best we saw in Q2. And it's a 27.2. John B has invalidated, not for the first time tonight. Jake Sharrock, it's a 26.6, but it is invalid, and that is crucial because now he means he has to do all that again. Hard work was wasted, but it was the quickest time that we have seen tonight. Jake Sharrock is on fire right now, but can't get that valid lap time on the board. Mr. Wiggles has come across the line as well, but no lap time for him, which means that obviously Wiggles has invalidated as well. Jake Sharrock has just invalidated coming through this straight section, so this lap is no good for him. Snacks is back into the pits, so obviously he had an issue on his first run. Deflated Wee into the pits as well. What about Platty? What is this going to be? Looks pretty decent. It's a 26.9 and it's good enough for provisional pole at this moment in time. Arjack fastest, 1:26.8. And here comes Adrian. It's a 26.808. 8 thousandths away from provisional pole, but Adrian puts himself very nicely onto the front row of the grid. Wiggles comes into the pits, and Bullet is on a lap. Deflated Weed, John B back out onto the track, thinking, I'm not waiting. Bullet, that's invalid. He ducks into the pits, so people struggling at the moment with keeping their lap times valid in Q3. At the moment, it's round 1 to Arjack. 26.8. It's not the fastest time we've seen tonight. It's pretty close. He currently finds himself on provisional pole. Adrian's super close to pole as Platty takes the script and screws it up in my face. A 26.7. That is the fastest valid lap time we've seen tonight, and puts himself on the front row of the grid, bettering his 26.9 as his first attempt. Ross in fourth, still not too far away from pole, only 4/10 away, as John B, many call the alien, as he manages to do these incredible laps on controller, believe it or not. It could have been a 0.724, but I couldn't quite remember. I just thought I'd make it a bit more dramatic. John B on a lap. Deflated wheat on a lap. Jake Sharrett, Mr. Wiggles, out laps. But look, the Snacks still in the pits, and still plenty of time for them to come out for their final flying run. And John B, just saw going over the curb there at Beckett's, has invalidated this attempt. It's a decent split through Sector 2, but it's not going to, excuse me, hiccup at a bad time. It's not going to count for John B. All that hard work is gone, and potentially those tyres are a lot more used than if he backed off earlier in the lap because of an invalidation. Deflated, meanwhile, is pushing 103.3, so pretty good. Still a few tenths off the best we've seen through the Sector 2 split. And he's invalidated at Stowe. Lots of drivers suffering with these invalidations, just trying to push as much potential from that car as they can, and in the end it's costing them. It's costing them times on the boards. I mean, at this point, even if you set a slow lap time like a 1:30, you're still only 5th on the grid. Bullet, Snacks, all out on track. Jake Sharrock once again invalidating his time through Magnus and Beckett's, like we just saw John B do a few moments ago. Maybe we're seeing a few bottles here tonight thrown onto the track. I've raced in this division, I've done quali in this division. I think the highest up I qualified was maybe 4th or 5th, and that just shows that even if you've got good quali pace, you're still not guaranteed at pole position. You've got to maximise your lap, you've got to perfect it, you've got to make sure you eke out all those limits of tracks, but make sure you don't invalidate. Mr. Wiggles, it's a 103.4 through Sector 2. Might be good enough for a low 20 and a high 26, or maybe a low 27. So this might be to try and get onto the second row of the grid. Mr. Wiggles with a 27.1 and just falls short of the second row of the grid. Bullet has backed off this attempt and will go for potentially one final run in a few moments' time. Snacks, meanwhile, coming round Luffield, getting a bit out of shape on the exit. May have cost him a 10th. Of course, will cost him valuable momentum all the way down to Copse Corner. So that was a bad corner to have that mistake on. The lap is still salvageable though, as Jake Sharrock does a 1:26.4, and that is the quickest lap we've seen, valid or invalid, here tonight, this week, forever possibly, on this channel. Very quick. Bullet has put a banker in the time, currently finds himself 7th on the banker. Snacks with the slight mistake. This won't be set in purple times. He does hold on to P7 though. John B setting a new lap time. Almost invalidated at the first corner. Deflated Wheat outlap, Arjack outlap, everyone else on the track. Wiggles is into the pits, and that will finish his session. Best he can hope for is P6 tonight. But Jake Sharrock has laid down the guidance. He's laid the barrier, the benchmark at a 1:26.4. Can anyone beat that? Even this man, John B. Adrian out of the session, and he will hope that his fourth place can't be beat here tonight. John B pushing the end of those track limits, almost going over, but keeping it absolutely inch perfect. Get the feeling this could be a masterclass from John B. It's a 1:03.2 in Sector 2 as Bullet goes 5th fastest. And Ross improves after being pushed down to 5th, been pushed down to 6th, sorry. He goes up to 4th place and somehow manages to squeeze his Haas in between Arjack and Adrian by 2 milliseconds. And Platty, out of nowhere, goes on provisional pole. John B goes 3rd fastest. Snacks improves and goes 4th fastest. Oh, Arjack is 3/10 up on his time, and he needs to be, because that is exactly what he's missing on our provisional pole setter, Platty. Jake Sharrock is into the pits. The best he can hope for is P2 right now, as Arjack invalidates in the final sector. Oh, and it would have been a 26.6, which would have been good for P3. And wow. In Q1, we saw 1 driver into the 26s. In Q3, we have 8 drivers into the 26s. Definitely, these guys get better as the sessions go on. But there you have it. Platty defying Jake Sharrock, who was quickest in Q2. And for many parts of Q3 was fastest. Platty nicking pole at the decisive moment. Platty, another pole position for him in IIRL. Jake Sharrock alongside him, front row of the grid, separated by just 12 milliseconds. Would you look at that? And then comes a very tight group from 3rd down to 8th. John B, Snacks, Arjack, Ross, Adrian, Bullet, all separated by 1/10 and 2 milliseconds. Can you believe that? Deflated Wheat, Mr. Wiggles, certainly not slow laps, but in the end, just couldn't hook it up when it mattered. They start 9th and 10th on the grid on row 5. So, after what was a very enthusiastic Q3 session, as we predicted, we know the grid for the race, and we also know that there are some very evenly matched competitors here racing tonight. We have no idea what the weather's doing, however, it does look like there is not a cloud in sight, maybe just the 1 or 2 on our screen, meaning it could be a very dry race and it could be blazing sunshine from start to finish. That may make the tyre strategy very easy. Safety cars could come into play here. Collisions could come into play. This is a track where you can go side by side through multiple corners at a time. So you may see that tonight. Yes, remember not to press A. A few minutes for the drivers to get used to whatever strategies, setups, fuel loads they're running for the race. In the meantime, we'll have a look at the drivers' standings for AT1. This is round 7 of 13. Which means after today we will be halfway through the season. Ross has the championship lead by a single point, just 1 point separating him and Platty. Ross retaking the lead of the championship with a second place finish last week in Austria. Platty with a third place makes it 5 podiums in the first 6 races. Deflated Wheat not out of it, 13 points behind in the championship. He's on 85 points and he has not failed to finish in the top 5 in every race this season. He's got a 5th place, 2 4th places, a 3rd place and 2 2nd places, but still missing that elusive race victory is Deflated Wee. John B, after just 2 races, is in 4th place in the championship, but has a 50-point gap to catch up if he wants to throw his name in the hat at retaining the AT1 championship. Side-by-side cops, I've seen it before, but it is very, very, very risky. And of course we all know what happened in real life when the last time 2 drivers went side by side in cops. As for constructors, Ferrari are leading the way, have a healthy gap at this stage in the season, 133 points for them. Haas are on 98, Aston Martin 92, so Ferrari lead by 35 points from the Haas team and lead by 41 points from the Aston Martin team. McLaren Williams tied for 4th on 58 points. Don't forget to finish first, you first have to finish, indeed. Quali results added. We need to update the driver stats very soon. Me and Padge will sort that one out, Greg. But yeah. Talking of our stats page, Platty getting pole position tonight. It says it's his 2nd pole, but may well have got more this season than my document says. And here come the drivers. Formation lap underway. There is your grid. And here is a reminder of the tyres they're using. Platty, Jake Sharrock, soft tyres at the front of the grid. They're going to get good starts compared to John B, who's on the mediums in 3rd place. Snacks alongside. Has a soft tyre, may have a good run down at John B, and has the inside line, of course, into turn 1. Those on the right hand side of the grid. Arjack, Ross, Adrian, those 3 medium runners all bunched together, as are Bullet, Deflated Wee, Wiggles, who are all on the soft compound tyres. Then comes Free Choice For those outside of the top 10, Akaris, John Pant opting for the soft tyres will get a good getaway. Below them, Hissy, Marth, Padge, Greg, Deton, all on the mediums. Sammy Starr joining late is in the Mercedes instead of his normal car, so we'll just switch over those results. He's using the hard compound tyre. Interesting. Perhaps not quite aware that it is a normal soft to medium or medium to soft. But of course, if a safety car comes out, that is irrelevant because they'll probably pit. Oh, and someone's off. That is Bullet, who I think has done a bit of a cheeky reset to track. "26 laps, 1 pole sitter, 1 race winner, 3 podium steppers, 1 weird commentator, 1 Silverstone track, and for a lot of these drivers, a hope of finishing in the points and having a great race." One flew in the chat as well. As the drivers form, the nerves will be getting very real for the drivers. Silverstone, very popular track, one that many drivers would want to win. It's pretty much a full grid, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot of action. This British Grand Prix is now underway. McLaren pulling out onto the grass, Akaris that is, in the background, single file pretty much all through turn 1. John Pant and Wiggles going side by side, bit of action at the back as well. Sammy Starr is already up 3 places in turn 1 as Ross and Adrian, Deflated Wee and Bullet are going side by side, drivers jockeying for position. Ross very brave to go around the outside of turn 5 there. Deflated Wee looks like he might have a bit of a run on Adrian, almost runs into the back of Ross. Arjack has got past Snacks into 4th, but pretty much business as usual. Bullet and Adrian going side by side into Cops, and remember the last time that happened it didn't end well. Thankfully for us, our Adrian has just dropped in behind Bullet, who Deflated Wheat has had a bit of a bad Cops corner and perhaps finds himself with a bit of unwanted attention behind. And Deflated Wheat again off track, may have got 2 warnings in the space of half a lap there. Snacks and Arjack side by side. Snacks getting the move done, back into 4th. Nice racing. Of course, these top 3 now have an opportunity to break away as Snacks and Arjack are fighting for 4th. Lassie, new fastest lap of the race, leads on lap 1. This group behind Snacks looking very hungry. Bullet looking for a move on Wee in turn 4. Good exit there from Snacks. Of course, no DRS until lap 3. But it's a nice start. No foul play, looks like. Sammy's had a good start, as we said, up 3 places. Had struggled a little bit, he's out to the back of the field. Akaris also has had a bit of a poor lap 1 as well. He's down to 17th. There is the position change in the top 6. It's business as usual. No changes. Deflated Wee's up 2. Adrian down 2. Bullet exactly where he started. John Pants up 1. Marth up 2. Greg up 3. Nice start there from Greg. Akaris and Padge, the 2 main losers in terms of lap 1 positions lost. He's down 1 as well, but still in the fight. Still on the back of this train. As Snacks is fighting hard to make sure that he is within a second of John B. As you can see on your screen, DRS is now enabled. Platty is going to be the one without DRS, and I think Snacks here has done a remarkable job getting back into DRS range of John B. That is no easy feat. Indeed, clean start. Question is, are we going to see some aggressive moves? Will we see John B silently wait in the wings? Let's not forget he's got the medium tyres, so it's very hard for him to pull a 1 second gap if he does get past these two in front. Will we see Jake and Platty have a classic fight like we saw on Tuesday night between Ross and Ghost? And Snacks has done really well here to gain on the back of John B. I know John B is losing a little bit of time behind these two. Has to back off slightly. Still late on the brakes, side by side through Stowe, Jake and John. Two J names. John B showing his incredible driver skill there. Getting past Jake Sharrock into second place. This could be the opening that Platty was hoping for. Deflated Wee with a new fastest lap of the race. He's in 7th place and on the tail of Ross. This could come down to pit stop. This could come down to tyre strategy. This could come down to poorly or well-timed safety car. Top 10. Nothing to separate them. Only separated by 4 seconds. It is very much what we like to call a DRS train. In case you're not sure what a DRS train means, all of these drivers from John B down to Wiggles are going to have DRS on the car in front, but it's going to be very difficult to overtake because the car in front of them doesn't have DRS at their disposal. The only person here who can lose out is Platty. As you can see, that rear wing is not open, which means he won't get the straight line boost. Now John B taking advantage. He's up into the leads. Platty extending track limits at the exit of Stowe. He'll probably get a warning for that. He has a nice exit. Platty can tell the difference in grip and traction. Of course, now this DRS train means that John B is going to be the one without DRS. Will Platty be close enough to have a go down into Brooklands? John B doesn't defend. He knows the move is coming, and the move is done. Platty retakes the lead on lap 5. Jake Sharrock here is on the tail of these two, and Snacks just showing a few signs here of dropping off. Maybe he's had a couple of bad corners. Finds himself under attack from Arjack. That's not an intentional rhyme, but we take it. There's a good battle going on for 11th, by the way. It was held by Greg, as Sammy is getting past Hissy into 14th. It was held by Greg a few laps ago. Then Marth, now John Pant is up into 11th place. So there's a mini DRS train forming between P11 and P17. Unfortunately for Padge, he's not quite close enough to the back of that train. Snack's done well to reduce that gap to the top 3 once again. Marth up into 11th again, this time perhaps. Greg under pressure. Side by side, Greg and Sammy. Hissy had to avoid a collision there on the back of Greg's car as he was being overtaken. And here comes Hissy down the inside. Looked like Greg gave room there, but unfortunately some contact. Hissy's round. Arjack and Snacks, side by side. ARJACK got a really good exit out of turn 4, turn 5, and round the outside of Luffield. ARJACK is ahead of Snacks. Really good overtake, but it's not done yet. These two still super close. Ross is lying in wait. Even though Ross is in 6th place, he's only a couple of seconds off the lead of the Grand Prix. That's how close this battle is. Ross had a bit of a poor Maggots and Beckett's and is forced to use a lot of overtake. He's just disengaged it now. Snacks and ARJACK still fighting. Lassie leads this race. John B, Jake Sharrock, ARJACK, Snacks, Ross, Deflated Wee, Bullet, Adrian, Mr. Wiggles. These top 10 all separated by roughly 3 or 4 seconds. As you see Adrian getting super close to the back of Bullet there, maybe looking down the inside at the entrance of turn 1. Deaton Pitts from 17th. Oh, and side by side, Deflated Wheat looking to stick his nose down the inside of Ross. I think backed out of that move. Bullet trying to go around the outside of Wee here, who looked to drift over to the right hand side of the track. I think Bullet has just recovered that. It's a little bit cheeky from Wee there, but Bullet wasn't fully alongside, so I guess it was still Wee's corner. No harm done. John Pant meanwhile still holding on to 11th place, but that group are now 6.5 seconds away from this big DRS train. Incidentally, Mr. Wiggles has now dropped out of DRS range, so I think he's had a bit of an issue on this lap. Maybe his pedals causing a little bit of mayhem as John B retakes the lead on lap 7. We very well could see this battle go on to the end of the race. Like we said at the start of Q3 that there's pretty much any of the drivers could have taken pole. And we're seeing that these top 10, top 9 drivers are just super close to the back of the car in front. And they're so evenly paced that no one's able to escape. I think a mistake is going to separate these drivers. John's got a really good exit out of 5 down the Wellington straight, and he maintains the lead into Brooklands. Brilliant race in terms of clean side-by-side fight. Sammy is now occupier of 11th place. John Pant was in 11th, now down to 13th. So that fight is continuing to shift and change, just as the lead of the race is. And here comes Platty once again. Down the inside of John B. Move is done. In Stowe. Sammy Stark first time penalty of the night. Here comes John B. looking to go side by side in this final corner complex. Those medium tyres don't really allow him to have that same amount of grip, but in a few laps time those softs are going to start to deteriorate, and we may see John have an advantage in terms of running away with a bit of a gap. This top 10, Mr. Wiggles now back within half a second of Adrian in P9. All doing super well to avoid contact with the car in front. Changing position for the Haas cars. Ross is now ahead of his teammate Snacks, who, you have to say, being a full-time AT2 driver, is certainly holding his own in this AT1 division. Does not look out of place. Flo making a good point in chat. Remember, those on the soft tyres now are going to go to the medium tyres for their second stint as Mr. Wiggles gets a time penalty. And I think Arjak has had a bit of a poor exit from Chapel. He's been overtaken by both Haas cars now, and our championship is very much in this hunt to win this race. He's now only 2 places behind Platty, who is challenging him for the title. Deflated Wheat, another dark horse for the championship. He's had to be an early pit stop. I wonder if he's got some damage that we don't know about. If so, he's going to have to spend an extra 5 seconds in the pits. No, he's just going for a very early pit stop here. Trying to get an undercut on those top 10. As we were saying, those on the soft tyres now are going to go onto the mediums in a bit. Those on the mediums are going to have to go on the soft, which means John B, Ross, Arjak, Adrian, they're going to have a tyre advantage in the final stint of this race. And especially with John B now leading, this could be exactly what John B was hoping for. I feel low-key a little bit sorry for these guys stuck in this DRS train. It's very difficult to overtake, and even more difficult to gain a lasting advantage when you do make that overtake stick. Jake Sharrock into the pits, responding to Deflated Wheat. Snacks also in, Wiggles also in. Question is Deflated Wheat going to be ahead of that trio of drivers? Platty and Bullet, the only 2 of this top 10 who have yet to pit on those soft compound tyres. Platty, if his tyres are going off, he's doing super well here to stay with John B. Bullet drops off slightly, finds himself at risk from Adrian behind. Ross will be expecting Platty to pit, possibly this lap, and as a result Ross needs to make sure that he is within 1 second of John B. Otherwise John B could be given a free rein to build a gap on Ross. Deflated Wheat has gained on Snacks in those pit stops, but he is still behind Jake Sharrock. So that is the situation with that potential undercut. Platty, will he be going into the pit as Adrian passes Bullet for P5? Into the pits comes Platty, and into the pits comes Bullet. Arjak with the new fastest lap of the race, putting himself now in 3rd place as John B gets a 3-second time penalty for cutting the corner at turn 1. That could be crucial as to who wins this race. Ross now, all he has to do is make sure he is within 3 seconds of John B come the end of the race, and he will jump ahead of him, as does all the other drivers here tonight. Marth, have to say, credit where credit's due, those top 10 have been very good in this first stint. Marth has kept himself in contention on his debut tonight, let's not forget, keeping himself ahead of Sammy and John. Hissy's 4 seconds behind this group in 8th place, yet to pit as is Majestic. Platty has come out of the pits ahead of Jake Sharrock. And what's happened with John? He has just lost out to that DRS train. Ross and Arjak going side by side. These top 3 here. Oh, contact between Ross and Arjak. Looked a close one. I don't think Arjak's lost an awful lot of time, which is good for him. it's a close one, that. I wouldn't want to give my immediate thoughts. Need to re-watch it a few times, I think. As we were saying, Platty ahead of Jake Sharrock, Wee, Snacks, Wiggles now ahead of Bullets. Jake Sharrock with a new fastest lap of the race. John Pant is in the pits for his first and possibly final pit stop. Greg and the top 8 all yet to pit. Of course, for all of the top 8 and Greg, they'll be moving on to the soft compound tyres, which means they will have a distinct advantage come the end of the race. As for these few laps, they are going to be slower in pace than those on brand new tyres. Platty, Jake Sharrock, Deflated Wee, Snacks, Wiggles, Bullet, as John B retakes the lead. So potentially, when these top 3, top 4 come out of the pits, they will be behind people they weren't behind originally, but they are going to have a really good set of tyres on their car. This race could very much heat up in the final 5 or 6 laps. As for now, we are half race distance, lap 14 of 26. John B leads Ross and Arjack by tenths of a second. Adrian is a couple of seconds back in 4th and still within a good shot here. If he can use those soft tyres well at the end of the race to possibly get some good points here tonight. Platty, 3-second time penalty. And that means 2 of our top 3 before those pit stops happened have now got time penalties. Could it be potentially Jake Sharrock to win this race? Marth and Sammy Styles still fighting over what is now P5, as Ross is getting very close to the back of John B, and I expect DRS is going to send him sailing back into the lead of this race. The question is, when are these top 8, sorry, going to pit? And Ross is pitting now. I have to say, we were not expecting Ross to pit this lap. I'd say, on a rough estimation, I would say lap 16. Ross has pitted on the end of lap 14, as Marth just running off the exit curb there at the final couple of corners. Adrian also pits, responding perhaps to Ross. And these two, as Snacks gets now a time penalty. One by one, these top 10 that we saw in the first stint are getting time penalties. There goes Sammy, down the inside of Marth. Another change in position for these two. Potentially, could see Marth here retain his spot in 81. Definitely a strong showing from the newbie tonight, I have to say. Credit where credit's due. Not easy to jump into a new league and to race people, but he has looked at home here. No penalties so far, so he's doing well at keeping those track limit extensions to minimum. John B pits in response to Ross the previous lap. ARJACKX stays out to remain in the lead of the race on lap 16. In terms of those early pit stop runners, Jake Sharrock now leads the pack. Platty is in 8th behind. Deflated Wee, sorry, Snacks, then Ross, and Mr. Wiggles and Bullet and Adrian. Marth gets a time penalty, meaning that my last sentence about him has been a little bit redundant. I do apologise if I dictated what happened there. Crucially, John B comes out of the pits in 11th place, behind Mr. Wiggles and crucially behind Ross. There are 3 distinctive drivers here in this top group who have a distinct advantage on the rest. Jake Sharrock doesn't have a penalty, Deflated Wee doesn't have a penalty, and Ross doesn't have a penalty. Bullet and Adrian are gonna... Oh, what's happened to John? John's had a mistake. He's dropped back to 13th here. And I wonder if that was a move on Wiggles that didn't work, or maybe it was just a mistake. Arjack pits from the leads. Marth overtaken by Sammy. Sammy will then come round to finish lap 16 in the lead of the race. Trying to bait Marth into the pits perhaps. Staying out an extra lap are this pair. Hissy pits from those medium compound tyres. Ross with the new fastest lap of the race. Lots of changing on our screens. Deflated Wheat and Ross very close. Ross looking up the insides, has the better tyres. We trying to force Ross to the inside of the track. Bit of contact between the two, but Ross shoves it up the inside. Looks like a clean move to me. Again, bit of wheel contact as we saw between Ross and Ghost on Tuesday night, but nothing dirty at all. Just two drivers going side by side, and Ross has got that move done. Ross currently finds himself in a net P2 once the two leaders of pits and once Platty's penalty has been factored in to the final times. Jake Sharrock looks in a good spot here right now. However, Ross is not only on the soft compound tyres but has pitted 3 laps earlier than these two ahead of him. Zakaris gets a time penalty in 14th place. Sammy pits. Marth has now been on those medium tyres for 17 laps. Good achievement from him, but we are going to be expecting to see him into the pits any lap now. Ross can just see the advantage of being on the soft tyres. Partially alongside Platty, but not quite close enough. Does well to avoid contact with Platty's rear left. Ross has so much better traction through Luffield, but has to just level off the throttle, make sure he doesn't crash into anyone. Jake Sharrock doing well to maintain the lead here. This is going to really hot up and heat up in the final few laps. It's lap 18, and this fight has been going on since lap 1. And Snacks is out. He's crashed at Maggots. And there's a virtual safety car out. That means Ross can't get that overtake done on Platty. He has to sit behind now. And that leads to a full safety car. Marth obviously will then come into the pits. And Marth here may just get into 10th place. Obviously everyone will have to slow down. People are pitting. Loads of people are pitting. I thought I was tripping for a little bit. I thought, how is Arjack in the lead? How is Adrian second? and then saw the amount of people pitting for new soft tyres. So this is going to shake up the order, and this has really helped out Marth. He finds himself now in 4th place. He found himself in the battle for P11 in the last few moments by staying out for 18 laps on that set of mediums. He finds himself now reaping the rewards of a fortunate safety car. He finds himself in 4th. Sammy Stahl from the back of the field from 18th. He finds himself in 5th place right now. ARJACK is in the lead because they didn't pit. Adrian's in 2nd because he didn't pit FRA John B after an incident earlier, and Deflated Wee has got a penalty here under safety car conditions. Not ideal for Wee's perspective. FRA John B, don't know what happened earlier. Dropped 7 seconds on those top 10. But now finds himself back in the hunt. May not win this race. Remember, he has a 3-second time penalty. Have a look at the penalties now. Marth, Sammy Stahl 3 seconds. Platty, Deflated Wee, John Pantakaris all with 3 seconds. Mr. Wiggles the only one with 6. Which may mean that ARJACK, Adrian, have a really good shot here at winning this race. Yes, they will have tyres that are slightly more worn than the rest of the field, but that may be a risk that pays off in the end. Jake Sharrock, the only one on brand new set of soft tyres who is yet to have a penalty. Good Jake Sharrock in this final 6 or 7 laps fight his way up the field, even though every single person now is on soft tyres. Could he fight his way through the field and take a win here tonight? Ross did find himself in that battle and had a distinct tyre advantage on Jake and Platty, but now it's an even playing field and Ross is stuck behind both of them on the soft tyres, down in 8th place. Safety cars worked for Hissies up to 11th from staying out, and Pajestic has gained a few places too by staying out under this safety car. Deaton just exiting the pits. Sorry to hear that's next. You are super close running in these DRS trains. You get so close to the cars, and sometimes contact does happen. No one's perfect. Sometimes you can get quite desperate in your moves, and maybe ARJACK has gone for a risky move that hasn't paid off and has taken you out of this race, unfortunately. It looked like you were going side by side through Maggots and Beckett's, judging on where you crashed, so have to wait and see if we see a clip in Discord about that. But if that's the case, unlucky, and you had a really good showing here tonight. Deaton should catch up this lap to the back of the pack. He's just coming around the final corner now, and the remaining 16 cars ahead of him are just coming down the Wellington straight now. Deaton very much catching up now, and safety car will be in at the end of this lap. Lap 22 get underway with ARJACK leading and Adrian in 2nd. Incidentally, if ARJACK has done something with snacks that leads to a penalty. ARJACK very well could lose a lead, and at this point in the race where everyone's bunched up, may find himself dropping off the podium and indeed maybe out of the points completely. Just remains to be seen. Of course, as the field is bunched up, time penalties come into the fray. For instance, Mr. Wiggles with 6 seconds. He's going to lose out a lot, not only because he's in 12th right now, but he's going to lose any hope of points on the time penalties that he got in the first 20 laps. As predicted, safety car in this lap. Lap 22. DRS will be enabled on lap 24. So there'll be 2 laps where there's no DRS. Then there'll be 3 laps where there are. I think ARJACK and Adrian and John B have made great decisions here by staying out. Judging by how the DRS trains worked in the first stint, we may see not a lot of changing of position here, and ARJACK has got a really good restart. He's already got 7 or 8 tenths on Adrian, and if ARJACK can get 1 second ahead of Adrian before the start of lap 24, we may find ourselves knowing who our race winner is going to be. However, John B is super quick and will be looking to get past Adrian at the earliest possible opportunity. We'll get that sorted out after the race, Snacks. We'll get you the role you need to report an incident. But I'll have a look at it anyway because I'm nosy. ARJACK trying to pull away. Adrian fighting back. Gap now 1/2 of a second. Jake Sharrock now with a time penalty. His progress could very well be thwarted up the field. Look at Ross now, he's in 8th place, and 5 drivers ahead of him have a 3-second time penalty. Ross here could be on the podium, even though currently he's in 8th place. Bullet, meanwhile, he's in 10th and has 6 drivers ahead of him on a time penalty. So Bullet could jump up 2, 3, maybe 4 positions on the end of the race. Marth thrown into the deep end tonight, straight into assist tier 1. He's had a great race so far. He has that time penalty, which actually doesn't mean an awful lot because a lot of the drivers around him do have a penalty, but he's got the hardest job now of trying to stay within 1 second of John B. No DRS this lap, remember. Lap 24 it'll be active. This has been a great race. We had a great Q3. And my choice for driver of the day is going to be super difficult right now. It just depends on how they finish. ARJACK, Adrian, could be all good shouts for staying out under this safety car. ARJACK now with a time penalty. 1 by 1, they're all getting a time penalty. And now Adrian finds himself in the driving seat to win this race. He just needs to stay within 3 seconds of ARJACK. Further back, Marth is fighting hard from Sammy style, as again they were before the pit stops. Mr. Wiggles now with 9 seconds, and his quest for points, I fear, is going to be over. DRS is now enabled. Lap 24 of 26, 3 times round the circuit they go. But we still don't know who the winner's going to be. We know Adrian is going to be in with a shout. Ross could very well be on the podium here, but with Marth just dropping away by a few tenths a lap, Ross's quest for a podium here might just be in vain. These top 3 may just inch it in the end. Here comes John. He needs to get past Adrian as quick as he can so he can get the foot down to catch ARJACK. As we saw in the first 20 laps of this race, it is super difficult to overtake in a DRS train, and Platty has had an issue. Out of Luffield, the long right-hander, Platty has lost a lot of ground. He's down to 12th now. ARJACK doing so well to get the gap on Adrian out of Chapel that he needs to stay ahead. Oh, and contact between Adrian and John B. John B trying to brake as late as he possibly can. Adrian maybe broke slightly earlier. Marth staying ahead of Sammy. Sammy had a compromised line, it looks like, into the final corner. And Sammy now defending hard from Jake and Ross. There goes Jake Sharrock. Bit of a dive bomb. Clean, it worked. Now side by side, Sammy Starr looking to get past Jake, who has had a moment coming out of turn 4, losing a bit of traction. Now here comes Ross. No change in the top 3. Marth doing really well in his debut. Keeping hold of P4. He might lose P4 to Ross, and maybe Bullet as well. But P6 on your AT1 debut is no easy task. Ross round the outside of Jake. In Cops, bold move. It worked, and here comes Deflated Wee, sticking his nose in this fight now. Last of the late breakers, Jake just running wide. Losing places, and Jake is spun. Jake, it's been a great performance. Unfortunately, retiring from this race. Unfortunately for him, all of that hard work. And no points to show for it. I do feel sorry for Jake. Meanwhile, final lap of the race. John B has made his way past Adrian. John B, ARJACK, who will finish first on track. We know that Adrian does not have a penalty. Adrian's job now is to stay within 3 seconds of these two and not get a penalty in this final lap of the race. If these two are quick enough, ARJACK and John B, they can remain 3 seconds ahead of Ross and keep a podium. John B wide. Fortunate not to get a penalty, perhaps. We don't know how many warnings he's on. Mr. Wiggles, another time penalty. Platty now with 6 seconds. That's going to cost him a couple of places. John B and ARJACK going almost side by side in the final Stowe corner. Adrian only 1 second behind. These two still putting on a good show, even though it's the final lap of the race. They won't win the race. Adrian is going to win on time penalties. John B wins on track. Marth, in what is turning out to be a great debut, finishes in 5th place. Ross jumping him on penalties. Sammy, Deflated Wee, Hissy, Greg, Platty, all in the points. Majestic, couple of seconds away by keeping it clean tonight. Deton, Mr. Wiggles 13th. Well, if any race prove that F1 is still a great game, look no further. 42 minutes of DRS training, side-by-side action that ends in Adrian winning from 7th on the grid. John B And Arjak on the podium purely because all three of them stayed out under safety car. Turned out to be an inspired choice, even with John B's early mistake earlier in the race that sent him down to 12th place. Ross keeping it clean, and that is why he is P4. POR Marth on his debut up from 14th on the grid, and a great tyre strategy with a fortunate safety car, it has to be said, but still, sometimes you make your own luck in F1. Up to 5th, Sammy Starr from the back of the grid to 6th. Great performance him tonight. Deflated weight, again, gains on his qualifying position in 7th. Hissy and Greg doing well to not get a penalty, and they reap the rewards by scoring points in AT1. Platty, our pole sitter, did really well to get pole tonight, but just 6 seconds of time penalties too many, otherwise he would have been in 5th place. Majestic, Detail, Wiggles, John Pant, Corey's, Bullet, all classified tonight. Snacks with an incident with Arjak, and Arjak may be penalised after the race. We don't know yet. And Jake Sharrock just losing it in the final couple of laps after what has been a very impressive race from Jake. And it's very difficult to decide driver of the day. I could give it to many people. I could give it to Marth on his debut, I could give it to Sammy Starr, I could give it to Hissy or Greg, I could give it to Adrian. I think I'm going to have to think about this one for a bit, and if you're in the Discord, keep your eyes on the Driver of the Day channel. But definitely, all of those names I've mentioned, congratulations, you definitely deserve a shout of Driver of the Day. We may even do a vote, you know, and let the drivers decide, because there is just too many to decide from. Remember, no stream on Saturday or Sunday night this week. The real life Miami race is live on the F1 streaming websites, and unfortunately they clash with our races, so we're going to move the Silverstone race for F2 and 82 to the end of the season, beyond Abu Dhabi on the final round, round 13. So remember, if you are racing in F2 and 82 this week, no race this week. We will see you next week for the Belgian Grand Prix. Remember, all 4 streams in the week next week for Belgium. Tuesday night for No Assist, Thursday for 81, Saturday for F2, and Sunday night for 82. Right, now all the admin's done, I'm going to say goodbye. So thank you all to everyone who's been in the chat. We've loved streaming this race. What a race it was. And yeah, we'll see you next week, next Tuesday, with me, Sungor26, for the first race of the Belgian quartet of races. So have a lovely week and weekend, and we'll see you on Tuesday.